From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on Ag Day, remember Farm Aid? It's still going strong.
It's become about getting the idea across that the reason for protecting family farms is stewardship of the land and that what's in our food that we eat.
We make some farm sense out of today's Farm Aid.
Coming up today on Ag Day, we're at the Minnesota Ag Expo, where one ag organization is working to build their own bilateral trade agreement. We'll have that story on Ag Day.
And the U.S.-China trade war. How close are we to having a deal?
China very much wants to make a deal.
Ag Day, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. China's Commerce Ministry says Chinese Vice Premier Liu He will hold trade talks as planned with the U.S. when he visits next week. During a regular news briefing, a spokesman denied reports the talks may have been canceled. China's top economic advisor is scheduled to meet with U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer next Wednesday and Thursday. U.S. officials want China to stop practices designed to help China's private and state-owned enterprise surpass American companies. The main culprit, China compels U.S. companies to hand over sensitive technologies in exchange for market access and actively encourages the theft of intellectual property and the infringement of patents. Now, President Trump remains optimistic a deal can be made.
China very much wants to make a deal. We'll see what happens. I like where we are right now. We're doing great as an economy. They're not doing very well because of the tariffs. But as you know, fairly soon that the deal that I made with them will come off. The tariffs will be substantially increased on China. They're paying billions of dollars to the United States Treasury. First time we've ever done that. First time we've ever had money coming the other way from China. It's always been a one-way street. But I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and we'll see what happens. But we're doing very well in our negotiation with China. One way or the other, doesn't matter. One way or the other, we're going to do well.
Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is downplaying expectations for an end to the trade war between the two countries. He said in an interview on CNBC, quote, "We're miles and miles from getting a resolution," end quote. Now, while a U.S.-China trade deal is important, some organizations are making their own deals. Tyne Morgan reports from the Minnesota Ag Expo. Tyne.
Thanks, Clinton. Yeah, here now with Jamie Beyer, president of Minnesota Soybean Association. She's actually a grower, been on the front lines of this trade dispute. Market facilitation program announced this week that deadline has been extended to mid-February. Are you a farmer that's actually participating in that program this year?
Yep, absolutely, and we're so excited to have received that payment. It really recognizes the destruction that policies have had on that demand that farmers themselves have grown. So we've paid in our checkoff programs to grow that China market, and one fell swoop, you know, it's gone. And so having those payments really made the difference to our Minnesota farmers.
Yeah, and you see how one action can have such an impact on prices. So what is the Minnesota Soybean Association doing to kind of diversify that demand so you don't see when one customer falls out, our prices impacted that much as well? Right.
So we work internationally to develop new markets individually as a state organization. We're also building demand in-house in the state of Minnesota. So with our biodiesel requirement, we're increasing demand here. We're also looking at building a crush facility here in Minnesota too, just so that we can use those beans here at home.
And you, Minnesota Soybean Association, created their own bilateral trade deal with a customer, correct?
So we sent a delegation over to Taiwan to show them the quality of product that we can produce. Taiwan was kind enough to come back, and we hosted them, and we actually signed a $1 billion agreement with them.
Just for Minnesota farmers?
Minnesota and Iowa.
So do you think we'll see more of that, or does that just prove what kind of a dire situation we're in, that we really need demand wherever we can get it?
I think we need to have all hands on deck, and we've got to be searching high and low. This particular country is one that hadn't placed an order in 15 years. So, you know, it's a yay win for us, but we need more. We need more wins.
Yeah, and just prove how key relationships can be in building that demand. Yeah. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Reporting from the Minnesota Ag Expo in Mankato, Minnesota, I'm Tyne Morgan for Ag Day.
All right, thanks, Tyne. Also still in play, the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. It still needs to be ratified by Congress, and a new report from Purdue University says the deal could have a big impact on U.S. farm exports. Experts predicting the deal could lead to a $454 million increase in U.S. ag exports to Canada and Mexico, especially in dairy and poultry. But when you factor in the steel and aluminum tariffs imposed by the U.S. and resulting in retaliatory tariffs by Canada and Mexico, there would be a loss of $1.8 billion. But what's the likelihood of those tariffs being lifted?
I think unless the U.S. removes our tariffs on steel and aluminum, Canada, Mexico, other countries, China, Europe, are going to keep the retaliatory tariffs in place. So the retaliatory tariffs are there because we put tariffs on steel and aluminum in the first place. And so getting those retaliatory tariffs taken off requires action on our part, I think.
Canada, China, and Mexico combined account for about 44% of U.S. agricultural exports. That equals roughly $63 billion from 2013 to 2015. Now, the report says if Congress rejects the USMCA and President Trump pulls out the old NAFTA plan, researchers say that ag exports would drop $9.4 billion. A new check on the rural economy says while the U.S. economy is doing well, the ag economy shows few signs of an imminent comeback. This, according to the 2019 Outlook report from CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division. It says trade uncertainty, rising debt levels, and market volatility are threatening to derail the global economy, with the trade policy between the U.S. and China remaining the leading risk. The report says continuing rising costs in agriculture are expected to squeeze producers, and that will cause further margin erosion and financial stress. The researchers say farmers should not bank on a fourth consecutive year of above-trend crop yields to make up for low commodity prices and rising costs, but it does find a silver lining, saying there's a 50% probability of a trade deal being struck with China. Some people were trying to still put a wrap on harvest in 2018 earlier this year, and already plant 2019 is underway. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman has more in today's crop comments. Mike.
That's right, Clinton. It may be a little early, but in portions of Texas, some producers are already out in the fields. This photo shared on Twitter by William Harrison. He says this is corn being planted in the Rio Grande Valley. This is one of the first pictures we've seen for planting this year. If you have some, make sure you share them with us on AgDay Twitter and Facebook pages. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, very windy today across the eastern Great Lakes, parts of Wyoming, into Nebraska. As we head into the afternoon, you can see the wind in the northeast moves through Maine as we head through the nighttime hours. Into the day tomorrow, it becomes windy in the northern Rockies, and that begins to spread into the northwestern plains as we head through the day. I'll have more in your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Introducing Farm Journal TV, on demand 24/7. AgDay, Machinery Pete TV. U.S. Farm Report on your phone and tablet. Download the Farm Journal TV mobile app today.
Still ahead, important conversations you need to have with your banker right now, and advice on how to go and prepare. And later, Farm Aid. It started as a mission to help farmers. 30 years later, a reality check. My take in Farm Sense.
AgDay, brought to you by Precision Planting, provider of practical and effective precision ag technologies to help make farmers smarter every season. Learn more at precisionplanting.com.
Ashley Arrington with Agri Authority, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. And Ashley, one of your jobs is to work with farmers and bankers and kind of help make all the books work for everybody, which is a big job. But where do you think farmers' minds are right now, coming off of 2018? It's kind of a mixed bag for folks.
Yes, and they're very worried. I mean, I think I speak for the Southeast very much, that we're very worried, and I think other areas too. I mean, there are issues in Iowa and other parts of the Midwest, but the Southeast with the hurricane coming through and North and South Carolina having multiple years of huge storms roll through, everybody's kind of on high alert at the moment because they're almost scared to go in to talk to their banker right now, I'd say.
Yeah, so when they go in and talk, part of that conversation is more than likely going to be about an operating line of credit, right? Getting an operating loan. What needs to be in that conversation?
They need to be sure to be upfront as possible. Don't hide anything. If you know you're going to be short, go ahead and run the calculation and say, this is why I came up short. Of course, I'm going to have crop insurance. So I've already talked to my crop insurance agent. Line all those things up. I've already got all this information for you. I'm estimating I'm going to be X dollars short. How can we work this out? You have this collateral from me. What else can we take? And then start the conversation that way. Show up with all the information you possibly you can get together, check all the boxes for them, and then just have the conversation. They'll appreciate that and be more than willing to work with you if you're ready and upfront about it.
How many decisions do you need to have made before you show up? Do you need to say, this is what I want to plant, here's why? Or is it something that you talk it out together and you say, okay, well, this is what I can afford to plant?
You talk it out with your banker, but your banker never wants to be the one. A lot of banks actually have policies in place that we cannot tell our customers what to plant, because we don't want to be in that position if something goes awry. But you can sit down with them and say, okay, help me talk about what looks better on paper. I'm thinking about planting more cotton, but I may need equipment to do that. I'm planting more of this. I may need to replace a piece of equipment. Will an equipment payment fit in there? Will this fit into my budget? And that is a conversation that they can really help you with. Your banker should be a part of your team and utilize them. Go in and talk about how much this will cost me in terms of a payment, in terms of interest and things like that. Have those conversations and let them help you make your plan for the year.
Yeah, and we know it is a big plan. I mean, it is hard to get all these numbers pulled together and try to come up with a path forward sometimes when there's a lot of uncertainty on the table.
Exactly. Markets don't like uncertainty and bankers don't either. Give them as much information as you can.
All right, appreciate it, Ashley. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For market insights and farm debt analysis, contact Ashley Arrington at 706-699-4543 or visit agraauthority.com. You could win a 2019 John Deere Gator. No purchase necessary. Visit ValentFullyLoaded.com for details and official rules.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here, meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, one thing we're watching for next week is just really big time cold.
Latest information really does suggest to me this could be a once in or twice in a lifetime event for the Midwest. Now, that cold is definitely not on this map yet. It's way up over the Arctic, but it is coming. We'll show you that on the jet stream, and it's for the middle of next week, so you have a 5 to 6 day advance warning on that. It's going to be extremely cold, and it probably will break some records. It might even break some all-time cold records in some places in the Midwest. All right, let's put the map into motion. Several small systems here. Each one can produce a little bit of snow. You can see one in the Great Lakes, one diving through the north central plains. By afternoon today, you can see it into Illinois, parts of Missouri, the eastern one into the northeast. Very chilly and cold temperatures all the way down into the southeast, including Florida in this situation as well. Now, this storm here is going to be an interesting one. This one could put down a fair amount of snow as it tracks toward the southeast. It'll be moving through Canada as we head through the overnight hours tonight. First day of the weekend tomorrow. We're looking at just a touch of light snow, parts of the Ohio Valley, a little bit of lake effect here and there. All depends on the wind directions and exactly where you live in that part of the country. And then you can see as we head through the day tomorrow, that light snow spreads into the northern plains and northern Rockies, and as it comes eastward, it'll have a little bit more moisture with it, so that'll be tracking somewhere across the northern Mississippi Valley, lower Great Lakes region, the way it looks as we head into Sunday night and Monday especially. That system may pick up. A little bit of rain showing up there as well in South Texas, as you can see late in the day on Saturday. Here's the precipitation estimate past 24 hours, lots of it in the northeast. Heading through the next 36 hours, not a whole lot. Most of it's snow because of all the cold everywhere, and so you don't get a lot of moisture once you melt that snow down in most situations. Now, looking at snow, you can see the past 36 hours, a fair amount in the northeast and the northern Rockies in places, but not widespread. No big storms there. Heading through the next 36 hours, you can see how we do put down some light amounts of snow in parts of the country. Temperatures, single digits for high temperatures this afternoon. Great Lakes, northern Mississippi Valley. Cold all the way down into the southeast. Lows tonight way below zero in much of the northern Mississippi Valley. And then tomorrow, more of the same. It does warm back up into the 50s in Texas. Here's that jet stream I was telling you about. First shot of Arctic air is already here. Second shot right there. Look at that. That's the polar vortex. That's about as far south as it'll ever get. The northern Great Lakes. Wednesday of next week. That's when the real cold comes. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. And first of all, we'll go to Pueblo, Colorado, partly sunny and a bit milder, high of 45 degrees. Flint, Michigan, cold with times of flurries, high of 15. And finally, Petersburg, Virginia, mostly sunny and chilly, high 47.
We have details on a product you might have in your kitchen right now that's part of a recall, and a longtime beef plant facing tough financial times. That's next.
Join Andrew McRae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
A longtime beef plant now filing for bankruptcy, Kane Beef in Corpus Christi, Texas, has been in business for more than 60 years. Drovers reporting Kane Beef processes roughly 270,000 head of cattle from about 30 feed yards annually and employs about 700 people. The company said in the bankruptcy filing that it had between 100 and 199 creditors to repay. It listed assets of between $50 million and $100 million with liabilities of about the same. The company will be able to keep operating while it restructures. And you'll want to check your pantry for this. General Mills is voluntarily recalling some bags of its flour because of salmonella concerns. It's specifically recalling its gold medal unbleached flour. The 5-pound bags have a better if used by date of April 20th, 2020. And you can see the UPC code on your screen. You're being asked to throw it away. The company says it discovered salmonella during sampling. It says it has not received any direct consumer reports or confirmed illnesses. General Mills says all other types of gold medal flour are not affected. Remember the Farm Aid of the 80s? The concert goes on, but how much are farmers really benefiting? A dose of Farm Sense next. It's no secret in our industry that for the last several years, incomes have been on the decline. Nationally, net farm income is down more than 40%, and according to some estimates, the Midwestern states have seen incomes fall by 60% or more. Now that's comparing 2016-17 incomes to the good years of 2011 to 2013. Which are numbers I'm sure that will be shared at this year's 30th anniversary Farm Aid concert. The event, as many know, started by Willie Nelson, Neil Young, and John Mellencamp during the crisis of 1985, and today is a nonprofit with the stated mission of helping farmers and farm families. Several performers were recently asked about it at a tribute to Willie.
You know, it was really hard to watch my grandfather and my uncles and my father all lose their farm back in the 80s.
You know, farmers are the heroes, and we need to show them that we care about them and support them, and it's really the backbone to our whole society, you know, and so if we don't sing out for farmers, you know, who's gonna?
And while the musical lineup is always top-notch, I find it interesting that the charity has raised in the neighborhood of $50 million in the last 3 decades, but I don't hear more about it from the farm fields I travel. And maybe that's because its focus has changed over time.
Farm Aid's had to, you know, change directions a little bit because we finally figured out that you couldn't just make it just about, you know, you couldn't categorically protect family farms. So it's become about getting the idea across that the reason for protecting family farms is stewardship of the land and that what's in our food that we eat.
People are losing their farms every day, especially local organic farms.
Well, that's not necessarily true. A survey in October said that there were 6.5 million organic acres in 2018, up 2% from the previous year on nearly 18,000 farms, also higher than the previous year. The organization's annual report says Farm Aid responded to more than 1,000 family farmers through their resource network and hotline last year. Public disclosures show it gave out roughly $700,000 to not just farmers, but their farm advocates and farm organizations, with just $400,000 of it going to grants and direct assistance in 2017. Now, Farm Aid touts its work protesting, quote, factory farms and informing people about GMO food, global trade in industrial livestock. They lobbied against the Trans-Pacific Partnership and fought for GMO labeling.
I blame Monsanto for almost everything, but when it gets right down to it,
farmers are still actively fighting, you know, against legislation and factory farms and that sort of stuff. I think we lost 500 farms, or just dairy farms in Wisconsin this year alone, and the suicide rates are on the rise for those farmers as well, because a lot of them had them in their families for generations.
Well, yes, farms are facing tough times, but I don't think we should be picking and choosing who to help. I support farmers, no matter the crop, no matter the size, because it takes all of us to feed a hungry world. Do it however you like. Stay in business, stay true to your passions. But I take offense to raising money off of all farmers when the goal is to put others out of business. And don't take my word for it. As a charity, Farm Aid's information is all online. You can go check it out and judge for yourself. We put a link at agday.com. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.